Hi Floss Tube, it's Julie with Reflections Framing and Stitching. Today is Friday. It's the 10th, I believe, of April. This weekend it is Easter. I am back for video number, I think it's 14. And I apologize for being absent the last few days. My computer decided to quit recording. It would get 5 minutes into a video and shut down. So Adam took it home with him and fiddled with it, and hopefully this will be fine. This is the first time I'm trying it, so we'll find out, won't we? We'll find out together. Well, you probably will never find out, because if it shuts down, I'll never be able to post this, but fingers crossed, no problems. So, I hope you've all been well for the last few days. Nothing much has changed here. We had a couple nice days, and now winter is going to make a return. Possible snow this weekend. So all you winter people would enjoy it, but those of us who are summer people are not going to be very happy. Let's see, what else do I need to tell you? Oh, I will be closed Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I'm normally closed on Monday anyway, but I will be closed for sure Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'm going to take a few days, clean my house, just kind of do some of whatever I feel like doing on the weekend. It may or may not be work related, I don't know, but I'm not going to come to the shop. So you can continue to email orders in or go through the website, and I'll get to those on Tuesday. In the meantime, I do hope you all, if you celebrate Easter, hope you have a wonderful Easter. I know it's going to be difficult for a lot of people because we're not going to be able to celebrate like we normally do. But I hope that y'all can make the best of it. So, let's move on to the chart of the day, since that's why you're here. And the last time I was trying to record, I had chosen Spring Serenade from With Thy Needle and Thread because A, the weather was nice, B, I knew Easter was coming. And it's just a nice spring design. It can go Easter or it could just go spring, whichever you prefer. Like her yellow dress. I'm really not a big, huge fan of yellow, but for some reason I think her yellow dress is pretty. Called for fabric is, what's it say over here? Flax from Zweigart, which is, if you're not familiar with flax, think of raw natural, only a little bit lighter. It has that same tweedy look that raw natural has. It's just usually a shade or so lighter. This is actually a darker shade of flax than what I normally have. So that's the called for fabric. These are the called for threads. And they all look fine. Okay. But of course I had to play with fabric, so the one if I were going to stitch this, which I probably am not, but if I were, and I have nothing against the design, it's just, I don't know, I probably just won't. I really like, this is Stardust from Hand Dyed by Stephanie. You can see it's got some pinks and some yellows, some aqua. It's kind of green, more of a green aqua. There's probably a name for that, but aqua works for me. So, I don't know, up here you can kind of see the pinks and the yellows up here. It's a very beautiful fabric, and the colors look marvelous on it. So that would be really pretty, don't you think? If that's too much color for you, You could try Pewter from Picture This Plus. It's kind of got that blue-green grayish color to it. And I think the colors would all show up on that also. Lucky Penny would work. And I have a color called Victorian Rose. Now this is a 40 count. And that's all I have it in is 40 count. But I think that could work too if you're a pink person. Okay. Now one thing I do want to say about this pattern is after looking at it, I found that a lot of the colors you only use for 5 stitches or 3 stitches or 7 stitches, which is fine if you have those colors in your stash that are left over from another project. But if you have to actually go out and buy all new floss for that, that can get kind of spendy. And at this time of our lives, you know, we're maybe watching our money a little closer. So I kind of looked over the pattern and I chose some DMC conversions for those of you who would rather do that. I did keep a couple of the overdyes that I felt were actually necessary for the variegation purposes. So let's see, the ones that I kept, Brenda did call for 758. I kept the crab cakes, which is the pink parts you see in these. I think they might be flower buds, rose buds maybe. So I kept that one. I kept the olive. That's all the greenery in the piece. So you're going to want to keep that one. I kept the putty because little Mrs. Rabbit there is putty. And there's a couple other places where you use that. And then I kept the Finley Gold, which is her pretty yellow dress. So those are the colors that I kept. I did away with Wood Trail and just substituted 3771 because it's just for her boots and the eyes, I think, on the birds. Old Marigold, I subbed in 3779, and I think that is used. As part of the other. Hang on a minute, and I'll tell you for sure. Looking. Old Marigold. There it is. Okay, where is that? Oh, that's the inside of her ears and her nose. So I don't think you need to do that. So 3779 will work fine for that. Colonial Copper is called for. I am subbing in 3776. And that is used for Colonial Copper. Oh, robin, the breasts on these birds. I don't think they're necessarily robins, but again, it's just a little handful of stitches, so you can certainly, you're not going to see any variegation in that few stitches. Bamboo, I went with 3865. Yeah, 3865. That's, you know, all the white you see. Again, there is no calls for bamboo. There's very little variegation in that. Curry is up next, and it is used the center of the flowers. See the flower centers? So 38.21 will be just fine for that. Mint julep is the birds themselves. You could keep the overdyed. You might notice a little change in that, but if you didn't want to, there isn't an exact substitution for mint julep. They're either a little too more green or a little more blue, so I pulled one of each. The greener one is 38.16, the bluer one is 5.98. So, and it's not that blue. It looks really blue in there, but it's not. Let's see, then I think it called for apple cider, which it's Gentle Arts. I don't have it. So I just, you know, it's kind of a brownie gold. And it's just used, where is it used? Here's the hat. That hat right there. So I just took 420 and used it for the hat. And the last one is Ye Old Gold. It is used for like the beaks and the bird legs. So 38.28 works really well for that. So hopefully that will help some of you out who would like to stitch that but don't necessarily want to run out and buy a bunch of new floss that's just going to be used just a little bit. So let's see, what else did I want to tell you about? Oh, I did want to apologize. I have learned something new about my POS system and my new website. There is a form you can fill out on my website to send me an email. And apparently when they set up the website, they did not bother to turn that feature on. So people have been sending me emails that I didn't know about. And then I started getting these messages from people saying, oh, I sent you an email through your website, but I don't know that it worked because you haven't responded. So I got to digging in and investigating. And yeah, no, I never got those emails because they hadn't turned that. There was a setting that they were supposed to have turned on, and they did not. So it is now turned on. So if you do send me an email through the website, I will now be notified that there's an email there, and I can check it and help you out with whatever it is you want. But I'm sorry for ignoring you. It was not intentional at all on my part. So I got that taken care of. And let's see. I already told you I'm going to be closed this weekend. So I guess that leaves us to the question of the day, which I really haven't thought about a whole lot. I thought I would talk a little bit. I know there's a lot of you out there who do not celebrate Easter, and but I'm going to talk a little bit about what Easter looked like for us when A, I was growing up, and B, when my kids were growing up, and see what it looks like now. So when I was a kid growing up, and I was raised Catholic. I'm not a practicing Catholic right now, but I was raised Catholic, and I remember that Easter always meant a new dress and a new hat and new patent leather shoes and sometimes gloves. It was a rule when I was little that women, girls, could not go into church without some sort of hat on their head. Usually it was just like a piece of lace that sat on the top of our head, but at Easter you got to wear an Easter bonnet. And we always looked forward to getting this pretty new dress, spring-colored dress for Easter, and our new shiny patent leather shoes. And then we would always have ham. Ham every Easter, like clockwork. It was ham and scalloped potatoes and some sort of a Jello salad, usually corn. My grandparents would come down, and Mom would take us to church because Dad wasn't Catholic and he didn't ever go to church. So Mom would take us to church, and then we'd come home and we'd make dinner, and the grandparents would arrive, and we'd all get an Easter basket with, your requisite chocolate rabbit, and usually there was some little gifty item in there, new bubbles or something like a jump rope. But that was about it. It was pretty low key. And when the kids were born, when my kids were born, Dan and I somehow got started. We still went to church at that time, so I used to buy, like, Abby and Adam a new outfit for Easter. I think we'd kind of quit going by the time Amy was born, but they'd get a new outfit. I kept that tradition with an Easter bonnet and patent leather shoes, and but somehow Dan and I got into the habit of, they'd get their Easter basket, but they also got little gift things. Again, not anything expensive. A new Lego set, bubbles, jump rope, jacks, just little things. But what we did with them was we would hide. It was more like a scavenger hunt. So the Easter rabbit would leave a note on the kitchen table, and it would be like a rhyme, and it would be a clue. So they would have to figure out what the clue meant, and that clue would take them to a clue, and they'd have to figure out what that clue meant, and then that clue would take them to one of their gifts. So say the jump rope. And with that jump rope, there was another clue that would lead them to a clue that would lead them to a gift that would... And so there were we did maybe 6 or 7 little things, and then the big thing was their basket that they would find at the end. And it just became we'd stay up half the night writing these stupid things, because they had a rhyme, of course, and they had to make sense to a 3 and 5-year-old. So they had to be pretty easy to figure out. But we would stay up half the night getting those done, and it was just kind of fun, and the kids really enjoyed it, and then we'd have ham. Usually we'd get together with my parents and then my siblings and their families and have a big meal, and then play games, something like that. And then everyone would go home. So it was always a nice time. Now this year, of course, we're not going to be able to do that. We actually haven't been able to do that for a couple of years because Mom and Dad, lived with Mel, and usually they're still in quarantine because unlike the rest of us, they're always in quarantine from about Thanksgiving till about May. So we weren't ever able to go over there for Easter for the last few years. So Easter has been kind of a non-event for us. I usually had the kids over to my house, but we won't be doing that this year. So we'll probably just stay at home and clean the house, or if it was going to be nice, we'd sit outside and stitch. But like I said, winter's coming and it's supposed to snow, I think. So we won't be sitting outside and stitching. So anyway, I would like for you not to answer a question, but tell me a little bit about what Easter was like when you were growing up, or when your kids were growing up, or what your plans are for this weekend. For those of you who don't celebrate Easter, just tell me what you're going to do with the weekend. And or I remember distinctly one year, it was shortly after we moved back from Wyoming, and we were living out at the Fort Omaha campus of Metro Community College, which is where Dan was working, and we lived in the old officers' quarters. And I remember we lived there, and we had gone to the store, I think it was Target, sometime around Easter, because I remember it was nice out, but it wasn't nice enough. And I'm thinking Abby was just a baby, so it would have been right after we moved back from Wyoming. And we walked in the door of Target, and you know those cardboard movie things, where they have the picture of it. It was a Disney one, and it was a picture of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So they must have just brought Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs out of the vault, as they call it, and that was a good gift for Easter, I'm assuming, is what their thought process was, bringing it out at that time. But I remember walking into the store with Adam, and he looked over and he saw this life-size thing of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and in this very loud little kid voice, he said, "Look, Mom, there's Snow White and the Seven Whores." And it was, very loud, very... People are turning around and looking at him because he called the dwarves whores. And it was a little bit embarrassing. He could not say his D's very well. And dwarf is a hard word to say to begin with, so he can be excused for saying whores, but it was still embarrassing. And then people saw it was just a little 3-year-old, so they kind of started laughing. But I remember that very distinctly for that particular Easter. And so the point of that story was, if you don't celebrate Easter, tell me a little story where you found something, your kid did something funny, or you did something funny or embarrassing, or just share that with me instead. So, I think that's about all I have right now. I'm not sure what I'll do about videos for the next 3 days. I'm going to try, since I've got 3 days off, Dan and I should be able to find time to do a video. So look for that, as long as so far the computer is still recording. So hopefully we can get a video done this weekend. And I hope whatever you do, you have fun. It seems to me, I don't know about you, but in talking with Abby and my sister and some of my other friends, the quarantine is starting to get people down a little bit. And I keep trying to tell them to keep their spirits up, that this is going to pass. It's difficult now, but it's going to pass, and find something good that is coming out of this. Like maybe you're reading more, or getting more stitching done. In Melanie's case, she's been able to work on her kitchen remodel and work, get closer to being finished. She still doesn't have a stove. It's driving her nuts. But try and find something positive that is coming out of this. More time with your kids. Now, maybe you're not thinking that's positive, but maybe they're doing more. You're doing more family things, making jigsaw puzzles or playing board games or something like that. Just try and find something upbeat to focus on rather than the downside, which, yeah, it's pretty ugly. And if you focus on that, we're all going to get sad. So let's stay upbeat. Let's think positive. Let's hope this is going to be over sooner rather than later. And in the meantime, you take care till my next video. And happy Easter to everyone who celebrates. Bye-bye.